What's going on, you guys? TBR here, back yet again with another King of Fighters All-Star video, and happy Saturday to all of you out there. I hope you all had a great and wonderful week. In today's video, of course, being that it's Saturday, it's time for everybody's favorite time of the week. It's time for the Saturday Chat and Chill, where we kick back and relax, and we talk about one topic in the King of Fighters All-Star community for, probably more than 15 minutes today, because there's a lot to talk about, but I'm going to try and keep it as brief as possible. So in today's video, I had done a poll yesterday over on my community tab asking you guys how you felt now that we have seen all of what there is to see with this collaboration, how you felt about the collaboration on the whole. And as you guys can see from the results so far, and I'll talk more about this in the next Q&A video to give you guys a little bit more time to vote, but a lot of you already have, and it is an overwhelmingly positive overall poll for Netmarble. However, in the comments section, there are a lot of critiques to this event. While a lot of people out there seem to be overall very happy with it, they seem to be in the same position as me, where they're taking more of a constructive approach, and there's a lot of different nitpicks and a lot of different major glaring issues that people had with this event on the whole that we are going to be talking about in today's video. Because today I want to go ahead and take the opportunity to go ahead and give you guys my formal opinions now that we've gotten all this stuff on how I felt about this collaboration as a whole. And in general, while you guys will notice that I'm mainly pretty happy with it overall, I have some pretty big issues with it. You know, I'm not going to be talking about the fact that they chose the characters they chose and so on too much, because we've already established that we all wanted to see Cammy instead of Luke. You know, we've all said that. So, I mean, what more can I say? But at the same time, there are a lot of issues with this collaboration as well as the positives, and I want to go ahead today and just constructively talk about those things in today's video and give you guys my formal thoughts and opinions on it. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. But before we go ahead and get into all of that and more, make sure if you guys enjoy daily King of Fighters All-Star content such as this, you smash that like button and subscribe. Also, fair warning to all of you, there is a link in the description to last week's Saturday Chat and Chill. We still do have the ability for you guys to enter for that $25 Google Play or iOS gift card giveaway. You have one more week to do so, so make sure that if you guys have not done so yet, you go ahead and do that. But with all that being said, you guys, today's Saturday, we have a Saturday Chat and Chill to get to, so let's go ahead and kick it off, and you guys know what that means. Cue that intro. Alright, you guys, so the first thing I want to go ahead and talk about as it pertains to the Street Fighter V update and my general overall thoughts on it, I want to talk about the events, because the events are going to be the glue that holds all this stuff together at the end of the day. And before we begin, I do want to make sure that I note that I do feel like Netmarble did an amazing job with a lot of these events. However, there are several different things that they did miss the mark on, and we'll kind of go through them. So first up here we have the Rush Dungeon. Now, the Rush Dungeons typically are going to be pretty asimilar across the board, but there were a few changes made here. Some good, some bad. So the first thing I want to talk about is the good, though, because it's definitely more good than bad. First up is going to be the Exchange Shop. The Exchange Shop this time around, chock full of value. Almost everything in here is valuable, arguably, depending on where you're at in the game. We did end up getting the chance to get 3 of this card set, which ended up being better as a set overall than what we got on the actual banners themselves. So that to me is super, super clutch. And in general, the rest of these items are awesome, and this thing is going to be chock full of value. The only thing that I could really complain about, and this is more so going to not be a complaint for myself because I just, honestly, my character's one-shot these rounds anyway, but for new players out there, I can definitely see where people would worry about the fact that they did make this like a 3-round system. They can take a little bit longer, as even when you're on auto, and for people out there that might have newer accounts, it might be a bit of a challenge to auto through these. So, you know, that is a minor nitpick, but I feel like it's worth mentioning. It isn't anything that I feel like ruins the Rush Dungeon at all. It's just kind of one of those minor changes that was made that I do feel like it's good for some as far as it being kind of just a lateral move, and then for others it can be a bit of a pain in the ass. That's that kind of thing. So I don't feel like it's that big of a deal, but I do feel like it's worth mentioning. When it comes to the towers, You know, this time around the towers I had no real issue with. The towers are fine. I will agree with a lot of people out there though that they did end up making these towers a little bit more difficult, at least with the character pool that was available this time around for a lot of players on a big budget or new players. Because if you're somebody at the beginning there that was just trying to get through this with a character like Nostalgia Chun-Li, you might have had some issues once you got to around maybe stage 25, 30, so on and so forth. However, I don't see that as being that big of a deal because there shouldn't be that many players out there, as long as they're summoning on these banners, that shouldn't have been able to finish these towers. And overall, you definitely want to finish them because there's a lot of value in here. I do feel like maybe there could have been a little bit more in here as far as what was in here for the rewards, but that's also a nitpick because I do not have a major issue with the event rewards for the towers. I feel like those are pretty good, but again, I do see and I do hear the comments from people when they talk about the fact that for those of you new players out there that had a little bit of a harder time with this than the last few maybe, then I can definitely understand, but I don't think it's going to be that many people at the end of the day that are going to have not had the ability to get through that. So I'm not going to sit here and say that it was that big of a deal. Now, other things in here, we also have the Ryu Guild Raid event. The Ryu Guild Raid event is fine. These Guild Raid events I really don't have a major issue with. The prize pool this time around, as well as the amount of damage you need to do on the boss to get this box, isn't necessarily all that big of a deal, especially with how hard these characters hit. You know, heck, if you got an EX Chun-Li, which we'll talk about when we get to that part, then you're probably not going to have much of any issue, even if you're not summoning on the banners themselves. So in general, the items here are pretty good. I don't feel like this is anything majorly, I don't know, it's not anything that's going to be that off-putting, and it's also not going to be anything that I'm going to sit here and jump up and down about either. It's kind of just there. If I had one major nitpick to throw at this thing, it would be the fact that they didn't go all in just doing an evil Ryu for this. Instead, we got not evil Ryu. I don't really know what they were going for here. Now, it's fine. I just feel like they could have maybe just gone all in and done evil Ryu as the boss here, and I think a lot of people would have really liked that. But at the end of the day, I feel like that again is another minor nitpick. Other things in here, we have the Smash the Car event. The Smash the Car event's fine. It's really honestly another thing that's just there, and I even forget that I do this every day. Like, I do it every day, but I just forget I've done it. Sometimes I'll go double check to make sure I did it for the day, and I'm like, oh yeah, I took the 10 seconds it took to finish that today already. So I don't feel like there's much of anything to talk about with that. So other things that we also got this carnival. This time around, this was a memory carnival. The big selling point of this was getting this change-up kit, which is fine. In general, this is a really, really cool item to get for this, especially considering the fact that you could go ahead and select any one of these that you wanted. So I don't have a problem with this. This was actually a very easy memory carnival to get through overall. It wasn't anything that was too difficult. So in general, not much to talk about there. I'm happy with it. You know, it would have been nice to maybe have seen a generic memory on here of some sort, like an SS generic memory. I would have liked to have seen that, but we also did get one of these Chun-Li memories, which is really cool, especially considering what we're about to talk about, which is going to be the crafting event, because that was pretty valuable for this and technically does give you access to a generic memory, quote unquote. It's just that it's not generic and you have to use it on a specific character from the collab. So what I mean by that is obviously you can go ahead and parlay up to 3 of these Chun-Li memories into either a Luke memory or a Bison memory. So in general, this thing here, this crafting event as a whole, I feel like is pretty cool, and I have no issue with it whatsoever. I'm very glad that it was here, especially considering the fact that a lot of people I saw were plagued with nostalgia Chun-Li memories. So I have no issue with this event. I feel like this event's fine. But when it comes to Chun-Li events though, I do have some problems with another one, which we're going to talk about, and that is going to be this thing. So this time around, for those of you who have not been around the game for very long, let me go ahead and give you a brief history lesson. When we had this last event summon like this with the last collaboration, which was Guilty Gear, it was for Saul Bad Guy and not EX Chun-Li. Now it is definitely worth noting that this EX Chun-Li might end up going down as being one of the best overall characters in this entire collaboration. This character is extremely powerful, and I'm very happy to start showing some footage of her next week. However, that is not the problem. The problem is they decided to nerf the rewards a bit. So for those of you who weren't around for the Guilty Gear collaboration, basically with that collaboration, we were able to pick up tokens here for the actual Guilty Gear banners. This time around, we were not able to do that with the Street Fighter ones, and instead, we are getting unified banner tokens. So while for new players, this might be something that's very cool because they don't have a lot of the unified banner characters, maybe you're just getting into the game because of Street Fighter, and you need to start building up your roster, that's good for you. But for everybody else, and even for those new players just getting in that I just mentioned, I don't think that anybody would have preferred to have had unified banner tokens over actual tokens for the Street Fighter banners, and that is a major downgrade for this event. Now, obviously, they did put a lot of value in here in the form of these option cards and so on, but at the same time, I would argue that this thing is in a definite worse spot than what we got with the last one. It is a big deal to me, especially when you consider that tokens do count towards the pity. So in general, I feel like that is a major nerf. And for the people out there that are complaining that Netmarble got greedy with this Chun-Li event in general, I would point out the fact that you are, even as a free-to-play player, going to probably end up by the end of this event being able to, as long as you're doing everything you possibly can, getting an A3 version of this EX Chun-Li, which again, as I mentioned, is going to end up being one of the best overall characters in this entire collaboration. So in general, I feel like there is a ton of value there, even regardless of the fact that they are charging for a lot of those packages in the shop to A5 her. So at the end of the day, I feel like it's kind of a give and a take. You know, Netmarble and Capcom or whoever needs to make their money too. So I feel like there's got to be a trade-off somewhere there, and I don't really have a huge issue with it. I definitely understand where people are coming from, but at the same time, I feel like the value is still there. And overall, while this isn't a total strikeout of an event, I do feel like the decision here to go ahead and nerf the tokens did go ahead and make this a bit more of a downer than it should have been. So that's pretty much how I'm feeling about that. You know, as far as anything else in here though, of course, the big thing we need to talk about is going to be the characters and the cards. You know, I'll start with the cards. Cards this time around, I'm a bit down on. You know, in general, the cards here, they're fine. You know, if we're talking about the set card and the option cards, you know, the set is actually pretty darn good for characters like Bison, but at the same time, we've had better in the past. A lot of people pointed out on release day that this wasn't a CP set. I totally understand that. That is obvious, but it's one of those things where, you know, I don't know, this set's kind of underwhelming to me in general. It's good, but it's not like broken good. So I think a lot of us out here have been a little bit maybe spoiled by Netmarble when it comes to collaboration set cards in the past. However, it is worth noting that it is a definite downgrade from some of the stuff we've seen in the past. Again, like Guilty Gear with their set card being just an absolute bonkers set for them. So it is worth mentioning. The option cards this time around are sus. You know, this one here is great for CP, but little else. And in general, this one here, I don't even think anybody's ever going to really use much. So, you know, the cards, yeah, not really feeling them. But when it comes to the characters, they definitely do salvage it. You know, at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit here and talk about each one of these characters individually. I'm just going to say that I do have problems with some of them. Bison in particular, we've already talked about. If you guys didn't see yesterday's spotlight, there's definitely some controversy going on with him, and I do feel like that is warranted to an extent. It does feel like Netmarble maybe kind of wasn't in the best mindset when they designed him, so there is problems there. And for this being one of the more hyped characters from this collaboration in general, that is definitely a problem for them. Now, when you take a look at other things in here, of course we got Ryu, of course we got Luke. Now, the characters in general, I feel like are either going to be God tier or still going to be tier 1. So it's not anything that, you know, we saw a major downgrade in quality in characters. If anything, we saw a major jump in power creep with characters such as Akuma, EX Chun-Li, Luke, Ryu, that sort of thing. My problem, though, with the banners this time around is the same as everybody's, and that's going to be the EX system. I'm not going to make this entire video about the EX system. This video, I don't want to make it a 30-minute video because the Saturday chat and chills don't need to be that long. But I do want to make sure that I mention that I am very disappointed in the EX system being added into these banners. This to me drags down this event in general in a big way, and I feel like it dragged it down for a lot of people, especially when you consider the rates and so on and so forth. I feel like the EX system was a definite greed move on Netmarble's part, and while the EX system inherently, in my opinion, isn't going to be a system that I dislike the implementation here. And I do not necessarily agree with doing it for collaborations, at least in the way that they did it. Yes, we are getting 2 change-up kit selections by the time that, you know, we get to that box, that Russian nesting doll box that we got in the login bonus. By the time we get to that thing, we'll probably all be skeletons, but I might be exaggerating slightly. But at the same time, I do feel like this was a major misstep by Netmarble doing the EX system on these banners, and that is something that drags this whole thing down for me. However, again, I don't want to sit here and rant about it because I could rant about that all day. I'm not going to do that. One thing I do need to talk about, though, is a bit of my own fandom. I am a lot more hype about this collaboration in general than a lot of people, because for those of you who did not know the story about why I even got into the King of Fighters in the first place, I've told it before, but when it comes to my love of Capcom vs. SNK, Capcom vs. SNK2, my love of characters such as Akuma, it's very hard for me not to be happy with this event on the whole, even though I have issues with it. And the reason for that is because, honestly, I was talking to one of my moderators over on Discord the other day about this. Getting Akuma in this game for me, and for those of you who have been with the channel long enough, you'll kind of know how much this means to me. But getting Akuma in this game for me was even bigger for me than getting a FES version of King. And the reason I say that is because I never imagined that Akuma would be in this game. Yes, I requested him in the top 5 characters that I wanted to see in whatever year I was doing that video, because I do those videos every year, typically in January. And yes, he was on both of the lists I've ever done for that, but I always kind of put the prerequisite in there that I didn't think that we would ever see him. And so to have him in this game for me is very special. To have any of these characters in here to me is very special. And I feel like for a lot of players that is the case. So in general, while we could sit here all day and complain about certain things, I'm just happy that it happened. You know, it's one of those things where while I could sit here and be upset about, you know, the EX system and blah, 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 to be able to see this character on my screen in a King of Fighters game is just absolutely awesome. And at the end of the day, for me, I'm very happy with the Street Fighter collaboration as a result. There are several issues, glaring problems that need to be addressed. There are certain things that going forward into other events that they could definitely improve on. And there are certain things we didn't even talk about in today's video. I didn't talk about Dream Match because, in my opinion, I think that Netmarble realizes how great Dream Match is and it's going to come back. And I don't think it's going to just be a Street Fighter collaboration event. I think it will come back, and I think it will be a permanent mode. And I think that that needs to happen. I think that Netmarble realizes that. I think this was probably more so a beta of this and a kind of a test to see how it was received. And I do think they knocked it out of the park. And I think it'll be back, so I'm not necessarily going to count it. But in general, all this stuff, when you really sit down and look at it all as one big update, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm not going to sit here and say it was perfect, but I'm pretty happy with it. And honestly, you guys, I'm just trying to be happy with the fact that we got these characters in this game. Whether or not it was perfect, nothing ever is. This was far from perfect. But to have Street Fighter in this game, what more can I say? You know, as somebody who's played this game its entire lifespan, really. I've played this game since day one. I've seen everything from Tekken to Dead or Alive to Guilty Gear, and now Street Fighter. Yeah, that's pretty darn cool. So anyway, you guys, those are my opinions. In general, I think the Street Fighter V collaboration was a win, but it could have been a knock it out of the park situation for them, and I feel like they really only hit a double. So anyway, you guys, let me know in the comments section how you feel about the event. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I hope you're getting the characters you want. I hope the rates aren't screwing you over too bad. With all that being said, if you enjoyed the video, smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. You all take care. Peace.
Continue.